And staying with President Trump, the commander-in-chief is being urged to release Prince Harry's immigration files. The British royal's immigration status was an issue during the president's recent campaign, and he promised to take action against Prince Harry for failing to disclose his past drug use on the visa application.
Former President Donald Trump is being urged to release Prince Harry's immigration records, reigniting questions about the British royal's visa status. The controversy stems from allegations that Harry failed to disclose his past drug use when applying for a U.S. visa.
Now, applications for visas or green cards require candidates to honestly disclose their history of drug use, and a failure calls for strict action, including even expulsion.
Under U.S. immigration law, visa applicants must honestly disclose any history of drug use. A failure to do so can lead to serious consequences, including visa revocation or deportation. Trump has previously stated that he would take action against Harry if the allegations prove true.
Is Prince Harry's deportation next on his list? Our next report has more.
Prince Harry has been living in California for 5 years, enjoying a lifestyle far removed from his former royal duties. However, the return of Trump to office has put renewed focus on his visa application and whether he received preferential treatment.
Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, has been enjoying his time at a Montecito estate in California for the last 5 years. But it looks like his "I'm running away from home" phase is coming to an end.
The Heritage Foundation has been leading efforts to have Harry's visa records released. The think tank argues that if he was truthful about his drug use, he should have been denied entry under standard U.S. immigration laws. If he lied, he could face deportation.
And it's not because of his wife Meghan Markle or the British royal family, because this time Prince Harry is facing a much bigger challenge: President Donald Trump.
Harry himself admitted in his memoir Spare to using cocaine, cannabis, and psychedelics. These admissions have fueled the legal push to review his visa application and determine whether he followed immigration laws.
He had time to visit Nigeria, Canada, and Latin America. He supported his wife as she made jam, lifestyle products, and starred in her debut Netflix show.
A judge previously ruled against disclosing Harry's visa records, but with Trump's return, calls to investigate the case have intensified. Trump has vowed to take a stricter stance on immigration and could make Harry's case a political issue.
Since then, the British royalty and his wife have been trending for all the wrong reasons. First, it was Meghan Markle's out-of-touch Netflix show.
While Harry and Meghan have built a life in California, their political affiliations and donations to Democratic campaigns may further complicate their situation. Trump's administration is now being pressured to ensure that immigration laws are applied equally to all.
Where she spoke about living a common person's life while walking in her avocado groves, showing off $1 million mansion that wasn't even hers.
With increased scrutiny on immigration enforcement, the question remains, will Prince Harry be held accountable for his visa application, or will his royal status continue to shield him from legal consequences?
I'm Andy Signor, so excited to be with you here today, and we got two wonderful guests to start the show. Steph, the alternate, is back, but look who's with us, Steph. So honored to have Daniel back, the black belt barrister himself. How you doing, sir?
I'm very good. How are you, my man?
Doing great.
The Heritage Foundation has filed a lawsuit demanding access to Prince Harry's U.S. visa records. The lawsuit questions whether Harry was truthful in his visa application regarding past drug use, which he openly admitted in his memoir Spare. If he lied, it could lead to serious immigration consequences, including potential deportation.
Here's the latest news. The reason we're talking about this today is because there's now a new legal threat. A challenge has come in. The Heritage Foundation has pushed to get the forms, the visa applications, etc., that would clarify whether Harry lied in coming to, get his visa here in the States.
The visa application process includes 2 key questions. 1. Have you ever been a drug abuser or addict? 2. Have you ever violated any law related to controlled substances? Andy and his guest, black belt barrister Daniel, discuss how these questions are legally binding, and any false statement could lead to deportation.
Harry has admitted to both of these things in his book Spare, correct?
Correct. Again, what I'm about to say YouTube human review. We have to be very careful in terms of what words we say.
Steph confirms that Harry admitted to using multiple substances, including cocaine, cannabis, and ayahuasca, in Spare and in a public therapy session. The discussion emphasizes that the real issue isn't just the drug use itself, but whether Harry truthfully answered the visa application.
Because I know you've talked about that.
Yeah.
In fact, you told us all that this was very possible this could happen. Now that they're actually an organization is pushing for these records, what is the likelihood of him actually potentially getting deported out of this? Can you explain it?
Daniel explains that the U.S. immigration process has a history of being transparent with such records. Homeland Security, however, has claimed they cannot find Harry's visa documents. Andy and Steph find this suspicious, arguing that it's unlikely for the U.S. government to misplace such a high-profile application.
But in cases like this, the US has been notoriously open about the immigration documents, these applications that people file coming in, aliens as referred to, for a visa in the States, as to what they put on this form.
Daniel states that if Homeland Security refuses to disclose the records, it could fuel public speculation about whether Harry received preferential treatment. If the records are released, they may reveal either that he lied or that U.S. authorities ignored standard immigration policies.
So what happens then? Well, the court will have to rule. The court will have to make a ruling and say, right, well, you have to provide this information. Or the court may make a finding that, well, actually, there's some reason that you don't have to provide it. And then we fall back on public opinion.
Steph explains that no matter what the visa records show, it's a lose-lose situation for both Prince Harry and Homeland Security. If he lied, he could face immigration consequences. If he was truthful, then U.S. authorities have to explain why they approved his application, despite policies that typically bar entry for admitted drug users.
And that's exactly why, because they know they're in a corner no matter which way the outcome is. They're screwed.
Indeed. And because the US is notorious in two senses.
Daniel comments on the Freedom of Information request process. He explains that U.S. immigration records have been released for other individuals in the past, making it unusual that Harry's are being withheld. And he adds that this secrecy raises more questions than answers.
Same thing with the kills. He's done a lot of stuff, Steph, that I think he had foot and mouth of like, was this book really worth it? And at the same time, though, these forms are interesting to me because, like, when I read this, it's like, have you ever been a drug abuser or addict? Like, if he did the Cokey Coke a couple times, few times, whatever, as a young kid, I wouldn't think that's a yes.
Andy reacts to the visa form wording, noting that the first question about drug abuse or addiction is somewhat vague. However, the second question about violating laws related to controlled substances is much clearer, and Harry's own admissions would technically make him in violation.
Well, no, actually, I didn't. I elaborated for the book. I didn't really give them the controlled substances. They just saw it and they took it themselves. It was just available and they took it themselves.
The group discusses how U.S. law does not require a criminal conviction for a person to be deemed inadmissible based on drug use. Simply admitting to using illegal substances is enough for an application to be denied. This reinforces the argument that Harry either lied or received special treatment.
Any of those things bring you within that remit of a conspiracy to violate any law.
Andy reflects on Harry's decision to include these admissions in Spare. He notes that the prince may not have thought through the legal consequences and that this situation is entirely of his own making. If Harry had not written about it, no one would be questioning his visa application.
That's the issue here. And of course, Harry's made his own enemies and people are always trying to get him. And so this is an opportunity to do that. This, to me, seems silly. People have done substances, and that doesn't mean they should be ignored from the country.
The group concludes that this case is about whether U.S. immigration laws are applied equally. If Harry is treated differently from other applicants, it could spark a major legal and political debate about fairness and privilege.
Which begs the question, why are they reigniting this war with the royal family, which will undeniably thrust them back into the spotlight? There is certainly more sympathy for their plight here than in the UK.
Americans look at Prince Harry and they see a vulnerable young man.
In the US, Prince Harry is often seen as emotionally honest, but his revelations in Spare, particularly about drug use, have raised legal questions regarding his visa application.
Who is being emotionally honest for perhaps the first time in his life, whereas The British tend to see a spoiled rich kid with every privilege that life can afford moaning about the gilded cage he found himself in.
While he has gained sympathy in America, his admissions may have unintended immigration consequences. The lawsuit seeking his visa records is now fueling further scrutiny.
Whichever side you're on, the more he reveals about the inner trauma and trials of the institution he was once part of, Prince Harry, already on the other side of the world, grows further from his family.
Despite moving to Montecito for privacy, Harry's continued public disclosures have reignited debates. His own statements in Spare could now play a key role in determining whether he truthfully answered his visa application.
Big story that you've alerted me to, quite significant. We have been talking now for a good week now about the ramifications of this demolition job in Vanity Fair magazine.
A major development in the Prince Harry saga is the growing fallout from the Vanity Fair article, which has severely damaged Meghan Markle's reputation. However, the conversation has also shifted to Harry's legal situation, particularly regarding his immigration status.
A magazine that basically shattered the image that Meghan Markle wants to promote, wants to put out there, that she's a wonderful person and everything's going brilliantly and their marriage is very happy.
The discussion turns to why Prince Harry has remained silent amid these controversies. While Meghan is facing scrutiny in Hollywood, Harry's potential legal troubles in the US could become more pressing, especially with the lawsuit demanding his visa records.
We think probably because of all the nasty things that are being said in Netflix, that Lemonardo perhaps think maybe people don't want a podcast series from Meghan after this Vanity Fair article. What are your thoughts?
I mean, Meghan announced her Lemonada podcast deal in February.
As media backlash intensifies, some speculate that Netflix and other companies are delaying Meghan's projects due to her declining public image. Meanwhile, legal experts point out that the controversy surrounding Harry's visa application is growing, particularly as the US government faces pressure to disclose his records.
As grief grifters, disaster tourists and tragedy vultures, you know, Kinsey, as well as I do, the reaction in LA to them turning up for photo ops to sift through the wreckage of the fires was very, very poor.
Hollywood insiders are reportedly distancing themselves from Meghan, but Harry's legal issues are an entirely separate matter. His admissions in Spare have led to mounting questions about whether he truthfully disclosed his drug use when applying for his US visa.
With Love, Meghan doesn't come out until March the 4th. Now, another angle to this is that, of course, Harry continues in his crusade against particularly the British tabloids, the red top papers here. He says he's was a dragon slayer who's going to bring them down to size.
Another layer to the issue is Harry's ongoing legal battles with the British tabloids. Some sources claim that Meghan wants him to end these fights in order to improve their public image. However, others suggest that Harry may be trying to avoid bigger legal problems in the US.
Okay, I've heard 3 different scenarios here. A Royal Rhoda reporter told me that they heard that it was Prince Harry's attorneys that really put the pressure on him to settle his last suit.
Camilla Tominey of the Daily Telegraph raises an intriguing possibility. Did Prince Harry settle his lawsuit against the British press to avoid drawing more attention from the US government, particularly under a potential Trump administration?
If Prince Harry potentially settled this last suit because he didn't want to rattle the cage of President Donald Trump, she said that perhaps Prince Harry was fearful of leaving the United States to participate in the trial, as it would have been too easy for the Trump administration not to let him back in. And that, while hypothetical, and Camilla's got great contacts.
The Daily Telegraph's Camilla Tominey suggests that Prince Harry may have settled his lawsuit against the British press to avoid drawing attention from US immigration authorities. Some speculate that under a Trump administration, Harry's visa status could face stricter scrutiny.
We also need to discuss the reopening of the case against Harry in terms of his American visa, because now there's a new president, the Heritage Foundation, the think tank in Washington.
A major development in the visa case is the renewed push from the Heritage Foundation. With a new US president, they have intensified their demand to see Prince Harry's visa records, arguing that he either lied about his drug use or received special treatment.
Which has been pursuing this case in the court, saying we need to see the prince's visa application because either he told the truth.
The lawsuit questions whether Harry truthfully disclosed his past use of cocaine, cannabis, and psychedelics. If he admitted to drug use, the lawsuit argues that he should have been denied entry to the US under standard immigration policies.
That he's a drug taker, that he takes cocaine, cannabis, and magic mushrooms, in which case, why was he ever allowed into America? Because that's against the rules. Or he lied on his visa application and pretended he'd never taken drugs.
If Prince Harry did not disclose his drug use, that would constitute a federal offense, making his visa fraudulent. The lawsuit argues that such a violation could lead to deportation, as it has for others in similar situations.
Now, of course, Joe Biden, being he's ever so humble, you know, he sort of kowtowed to Harry and said, oh, he's safe, he can stay here forever, because he's a member of the royal family.
Joe Biden previously reassured Harry that he was safe in the US, reportedly due to his royal status. However, Trump has stated he would not intervene on Harry's behalf if his visa was found to be fraudulent.
Biden kowtowed to him, Donald Trump not so much. Donald Trump basically said he's on his own. So seriously, Harry could be fearing for his future in America.
The discussion highlights the contrast between Biden's perceived leniency and Trump's firm stance on immigration. If the visa application is made public and shows inaccuracies, Harry could face serious consequences under a stricter administration.
And I could argue mixed feelings on this, because on one hand, Prince Harry lied on his visa application about his drug use. That deserves to be revealed. Yet at the same time, I do feel bad for potentially kicking him out of the country.
There is increasing pressure to reveal Prince Harry's visa records now that there is a new US administration. The question remains, did he truthfully disclose his past drug use, or did he receive special treatment?
This has been something that has been evolving for a long time. So the bare bones basic of the situation is this. We do not know what Harry's visa is. Does he have a green card? Does he have a diplomatic visa? Very serious if he does.
The core issue is whether Prince Harry lied on his visa application about using illegal substances, which he later admitted to in Spare. If he misrepresented the truth, it could be grounds for visa revocation.
Fair. And then there, he admitted to illicit drug use. Now, when you fill out your visa application, you must share whether or not you have taken some illegal drugs. If you have, you are in big trouble. If you have not, you should be fine.
This controversy would not exist if Harry had not written Spare. His admissions have now created a legal dilemma that may impact his ability to stay in the US.
Well, now, if he was honest and he still got it, that's a question. But I think the other question here I have is, what is his visa status? Because I'm actually somewhat interested in that, because having something like a diplomatic visa or a diplomatic passport.
Another key question is what kind of visa Harry holds. If he has a diplomatic visa or passport, it may have allowed him to bypass standard immigration rules.
So Harry's status here really does matter, because a diplomatic visa might mean he can get away with certain things. Or if he has a diplomatic passport, same thing. We actually saw this issue with the son of the Crown Princess of Norway. His name is Marius Borgholmby, and he has been arrested a couple times now for assault. And
the Biden administration previously resisted calls to disclose Harry's immigration records. However, with stricter border policies under Trump, this issue could now be revisited.
But the problem with Harry and Meghan in this scenario, since moving to the United States, is that they're not just royals who live here. They want to be royalty here. And that doesn't work.
The push to reveal Harry's visa status is being led by Niall Gardiner from the Heritage Foundation. He argues that Harry should be held accountable under US law, just like any other applicant.
Some families that are connected with the presidency, some people call them American royalty, but they're not real. And we all know that. And so yes, they get immediate attention, but Harry and Meghan have done something which I feel like makes them the bane of existence here in the United States.
Gardner believes Donald Trump has the legal authority to order the release of Harry's immigration records. His administration is expected to take a stricter stance on this issue.
We saw this with King Felipe and Queen Letizia of Spain. They actually went with the president. The president was basically run out of town after some massive flooding in Valencia. but the king and queen stayed. They met with the people, they talked with the people.
Trump has already signaled that he will not offer Prince Harry any special protections. If the visa records reveal inaccuracies, it could lead to significant consequences for Harry's residency in the US.
Harry's the one suffering the consequences for it, because I'm sure Meghan egged him on. Hey, this book is going to net us $20 million. You need to do it. And Harry did it. And now he might find himself without another country.
The speaker notes that Harry's visa issue is entirely self-inflicted. Had he not publicly disclosed his past drug use, it is unlikely that anyone would have questioned his immigration status.
And so Harry and Meghan need to take 2 giant steps back. They had made themselves a nuisance. They walked into another country, thought they could do whatever the heck they want, and ticked off an entire populace in the process.
The political climate has shifted, and Harry may find fewer allies in his visa fight. His public statements have made it difficult to avoid scrutiny.
But maybe this is all part of the first part of what's going to be Meghan's upcoming divorce book.
While Trump may not outright deport Harry, he could make life much harder for him by enforcing stricter immigration policies. The US government is unlikely to support Harry and Meghan's continued efforts to act as unofficial royals. Prince Harry's visa controversy remains a heated topic, with legal and political pressures mounting for the release of his immigration records. As Trump's administration takes a stricter approach to immigration, the outcome of this case could set a significant precedent.